In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your lower control arm bushing on your Mazda 3. It's located behind your wheel. Using a 21mm socket, we're going to take off our lug nuts. Make sure you hold on here. Make sure that wheel doesn't fall off on you. All right, using a 14mm socket, I'm going to take off the nut off this pinch bolt for the ball joint. I'm using some locking pliers to get this nut off. There we go. We're getting our bolt out. I freed it up. I'm just applying pressure and using some locking pliers on the other end to help pull it out. There we go. So after you get your pinch bolt out, you're going to want to separate out on the knuckle this little split here to allow the stud to come out. So you're going to use a cold chisel and just separate that out as much as you can. If it doesn't come out after you've separated out this little split here, you're going to want to use one of these, and that's going to push it out like this. I'm going to take these two bolts down. These are aftermarket. I don't know what you guys have at home, but it's probably something similar. I'm going to take it down so I can get to this bolt a little easier. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. And that way I can just get my gun in there and get that off. Using a 19mm socket, we're going to take out this bolt. Now we're going to use a 17mm and take out these two bolts. So we've taken our bolt out on the ball joint, and now we're going to take out this control arm. So I'm going to pry down. I also have a bungee cord just to hold the control arm from falling for when it does finally release. And I have an exhaust clamp to help me leverage with the pry bar. And there we go. I'm going to unhook my bungee cord. And take off my exhaust clamp. Before installing or deinstalling this bushing, we're going to make sure we mark where it's lined up on the old control arm and on the old bushing. I'm going to use this side of the bracket as my frame of reference. so that when I install it, this is lined up with this line. Now, we're going to press it off with this press. I have something lined up in the center here to push the control arm away as the bushing gets pulled towards me. So the puller didn't work, so now we're going to go to the press. We're hoping that we can get at least the bracket off so that we can cut the sleeve off. If we can't do that, maybe it'd be even better if we could just get the whole thing off in one shot. So let's see what we got. Okay, the rubber ripped off, now we're going to cut it off. We're going to cut the sleeve off now. Now we're going to chisel it off. Yellow line here and a yellow line here. We're going to make sure we line this up as we press it on with the new one. So make sure you have it holding it the same way. And then when you press that on, you're going to make sure it's lined up with that line. You want to hold the bushing and give it a good whack, get it started, and make sure you're still lined up before you press it on. Make sure you support your control arm in the press properly. You want to definitely support this here, otherwise this bushing is going to get popped out. And make sure it's in a direct line. All right, so let's put it on. Make sure you press this in. You're going to look inside here. And on the old one, you see where the rust line is. That's where the water was hitting it. So you want to press this in just as far. I'd say we got to go another 1/2 inch. Use your old one as a reference. So let's keep going. We're going to press down about another 1/2 inch. I'd say we're about there. So let's take it out, check our work. You know your bushing is pressed on completely when it matches up with your old sleeve. If you want, you can get your bungee cord on your control arm and the exhaust clamp on the control arm before install, the same way you took it off. Or you could just put it in without any of that. I'm going to use my bungee cord and hang it off the spring. Then I'll take the weight off. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to get a punch so I can line up that hole. Put my punch in there and just get this front side lined up. Now I'm going to go to the back. Give it a good push. You may have to move your knuckle out of the way. I'm using a pole jack to hold this straight, and now I'm using a pry bar on the other side to line up my bolt. I'm going to push up and pull on the control arm and get my bolt started. You're going to need a pry bar, and you're going to lower that down. Put your knuckle over. I'm using a rubber mallet, and I'm hitting the arm, not the ball joint. So I put a light up here so I could see where my holes were not lined up. I recommend doing that as well. And just use a punch and move that bracket where you need it to go in order to line up the bolt holes. Still using that pole jack to keep it straight. And you can get your bolt started. I'll slide my pinch bolt through and get my nut started there. So when you're lining up your knuckle and your ball joint for the bolt to go through, make sure that you see this little, it's like a, you're going to see that it's not going to fit here or here. It's only going to fit if that groove is where it belongs for the bolt. So as you're wiggling your control arm up and down, make sure there's enough room for that bolt to go through. So if I had it up too high, the bolt's not going to fit because you can see that this piece is not lined up with the bolt. Now I'm going to snug things up, and then once we push this control arm up to ride height, we're going to torque everything. All right, let's remove our exhaust clamp. Get it out of our way. We know our bolts are all lined up. And we can get our bungee cord down if you used it. All right, we're going to snug this up. Once everything's snug, we're going to jack up the control arm to ride height. I'm going to use my rubber hockey puck here so I don't slip. If you have to do this at home, you can always put your exhaust clamp here to hold the pole jack from slipping, or if you're on the ground, you're going to want to put something to keep the jack stand from slipping as well. So you could use your exhaust clamp for that too. There's an order in torquing the control arm. You're going to do the rear first, these two bolts at 100 foot-pounds. And then you're going to go to this side bolt, and that's going to be 150 foot-pounds. And then we're going to do the ball joint at 50 pounds, foot-pounds. So let's begin. And this last one is 50 foot-pounds. You could lower your pole jack or whatever you're using. Now we can put our splash shield back on. We're going to install our wheel now. I like to walk the wheel on. When you're tightening, make sure you go in a star-like pattern. We're going to torque our wheel to 85 foot-pounds in a star-like pattern. Now you're going to want to take your vehicle down to your local alignment shop to get it aligned.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.